successful? Like, did the progressives make overwhelming positive change in the United States? As a reminder of our norms, your microphones should be off and your videos on with your face in frame in order to get a full 100% in the Zoom engagement tracker when Ms. Michelle gets here. Be prepared for warm and cold call. Make sure you use the chat constructively. And your exit ticket is due at the end of class. And just as a reminder, the APUSH gradebook will be closing on January 20th. So if you have any makeup work or extra credit that you want to get done in order to have as high of a grade as possible before or after the IA, please make sure you get it to me by then. I pulled many of you for tutorial on Friday to help make up some work. But if you notice that I did not pull you for tutorial on Friday, but you want some support as you finish that makeup work or doing extra credit or anything like that, you are more than welcome to join me there. Okay, we are going to go ahead and get started on the do now, which is page 1 of your classwork. It is going to be some background reading on the limitations of the progressive movement with one question at the bottom. You are going to have a place in the Nearpod, which is going to be open now. And I'll go ahead and open that now so that it's available, where you're going to discuss what are the major weaknesses of the progressive movement. You have 5 minutes to do this reading and submit responses onto the Nearpod. Go ahead and get started. So 5 minutes for page 1 and submitting responses on the Nearpod. Three and a half minutes left on the do now. 3.5 minutes left. For those of you just joining us, we have 2.5 minutes left on the do now, and the link to the Nearpod is in the chat. Awesome. Thank you to you guys who are starting to put responses into the Nearpod. You have 90 more seconds to finish reading and to share your reflections in the Nearpod. Okay, that was 5 minutes. Go ahead and take 30 seconds to share your responses into the Nearpod if you have not done so already. I only have responses from 3 people in the Nearpod. Again, 30 seconds to share those reflections in the Nearpod. Okay, just as a reminder that involving yourself with the Nearpod and sharing responses in the Zoom chat and discourse does factor into your engagement grade, and just make sure that you are participating. I have the word wall up on the Nearpod. You have 3 minutes. These words you can also find in your classwork packet on page 2. So our word wall is 19th Amendment, Jim Crow era, Trustbuster, and the jungle. You have 3 minutes to review these words before the oral drill. 3 minutes on the clock to review. Go ahead and get started. Ninety more seconds to review. 30 more seconds. Ten more seconds, and then we're going to come back together. Great. What is the 19th Amendment? The 19th Amendment, Sierra.
The 19th Amendment was where women were given the right to vote.
Awesome. What is the Jim Crow era? What is the Jim Crow era, Kamaya?
I said the Jim Crow era emphasized segregation of African Americans through a series of laws to continue the discrimination and poor treatment of them in comparison to whites.
Awesome. Whose nickname was the Trust Buster? Share it in the chat. Whose nickname was the Trust Buster? Take 15 seconds in the chat. Awesome, Jalasia, which one? We have 2 Roosevelt presidents. Yes, I'm starting to see Mr. Theodore Roosevelt. The reason why I'm pushing is we will learn more about Franklin Roosevelt next quarter. So we got to make sure we're staying specific. What about the jungle? What does the jungle expose? Share it in the chat. What does the jungle expose? And who wrote it? Share it in the chat. Great, thank you for those responses I'm seeing in the chat. Great, I'm seeing us, we're all agreeing that this is about the meat packing industry. What's the name of the guy that wrote it? Great, Arabia gets merits. First person to have the name in the chat, Upton Sinclair. Upton Sinclair wrote The Jungle. Awesome job on that oral drill, you guys. We are gonna go ahead and get started on today's discourse. So as we've been discussing over the last week is the role of muckrakers and progressivism in the early 1900s and their attempts to reverse some of the really negative things that were coming out of industrialization. But the question is, was all of it worth it? Did it create enough good, positive change? Which is what you are going to be zooming in on today in your independent work with the question, to what extent were progressive reformers successful in improving American society? In your annotation tracker today, we are going to be focusing on only 2 things. The purpose, which I'm going to ask, what does this document tell you? So in the purpose line on your annotation tracker, what is this document telling you? And then the significance, you're going to identify, yes, progressives were successful, or no, they were not successful. These are all relatively short documents, so you're going to have 12 minutes to annotate them. The right thing up here. Yes, you're going to have 12 minutes to annotate documents 1 through 4, but be prepared to periodically pause and answer questions in the Zoom chat. The documents start on page 3 of the classwork. Please chat A100 when you have document 1 pulled up, and I will share the annotation tracker in the chat as well. Okay, looks like most of us have document 1 pulled up. Go ahead and pull up that annotation tracker. It's in the chat. I have 7 of us and I need 17. So waiting on 10 more to get on the annotation tracker. If the link in the chat doesn't work, you can also pull it up in the classroom assignment. Great. I have 11, I have 12. I have 12, I should have 17, so I'm waiting on 5 more. Okay, most of us are there, so make sure you go ahead and find your name so you can get ready to get started. So we have document 1 pulled up, we have our annotation tracker pulled up, so we are all ready to get started. You have 12 minutes to annotate these 4 documents. Be prepared to pause periodically. Chat me if you have any questions. 12 minutes on the clock. Go ahead and get started. Starting to see some really good purpose statements and significant statements on for document 1. You have 8.5 minutes left. Transition to document 2 if you have not done so already. Transition to document 2. Really good job on document 1 and document 2 significant statements, identifying whether or not progressives did make change. I increased our time a little bit. You have 6.5 minutes left. Transition to document 3 if you have not done so already. Awesome, 5.5 minutes left. We should all be on document number 3. You have 4.5 more minutes. 3.5 minutes left. Go ahead and transition to document 4 if you have not gotten there already. Two more minutes. Thirty more seconds to finish your annotations, and then we'll come back together as a group. Go ahead and finish up. Were the progressives successful? Yes or no in the chat. Were the progressives successful? You have to pick one. Yes or no in the chat. Go ahead and share out. Gotta pick one, Mela. Yes or no. I'm gonna be mean and make you guys take a side. That's my job, Mela. Make things difficult. Okay, it looks like most of us are saying no. But Kamaya said she thinks so. So I'm curious. Kamaya, why did you say yes? And Sierra, why did you say no? We'll start with Kamaya.
Um, I don't know. I'm a little eh. But I said I think so because, like, with the meat packaging industry, if they didn't speak up and expose what was going on, then to this day we might still have nasty meat. And like they achieved the meat inspection, and then um like with them exposing everything else within America, like Theodore Roosevelt, he became the trust buster by helping them. And then um in the long run, women gained the right to vote, and then African Americans also gained their rights. Yeah. So I feel like they made some changes. Like if they hadn't spoken up, then none of these things would happen and we would still be stuck in the 1900s.
Great. And Sierra?
I said that they didn't because they like basically left out like African Americans within the, like these progressive movements, and like in document 4, it basically like said how like Africans African Americans have done so much for the country only to be like treated with like lynchings and stuff like that.
Great use of going back to the document. What is, so, Kamaya, go ahead.
Um, and they kind of didn't. I feel like okay, so when progressive writers were writing and stuff, they did speak about the lynching and everything. And Theodore Roosevelt did try and help. The problem was Woodrow Wilson because he didn't help that, and he was promoting segregation. So he was the real issue. And so being that he became president, that's why like African Americans didn't really benefit from the progressive era as much as whites did.
Kamaya, for merits, what's the name of the African American woman who was a journalist that exposed all these issues with lynchings?
I can find it. Give me
Nope,
two.
nope, that doesn't count. Merits for name it. Okay, Shakeem, let's go. Shakeem swooping in.
Ida B. Wells.
Yes, Ida B. Wells. Awesome. What is some, so Kamaya pointed out some genuine successes about the progressive movement. In the chat, what are some pieces of outside evidence that support that the progressive movement was a success? So not necessarily what you read in your documents, but what are some good things that the progressive movement did? Go ahead and share in the chat. If you were going to write an essay about the progressive movement, what's some outside evidence you would come up with? 30 seconds in the chat. Great, thank you, Sierra, for starting us off. Thank you, Kamaya. Again, what's some outside evidence? Thank you, Shakeem. Square deal, 19th Amendment. Awesome. Okay. So there are, as we've seen in the chat, there are a lot of reasons why some would say the progressives were successful. Now I want to go back to Sierra's argument and what most of us argued in the chat, that it was not successful. Why do we think the progressives were not successful? Building off of Sierra's initial argument, let me hear from Soraya and then Giovanni.
Can you repeat the question?
Why did you say progressives were not successful?
Because even though they did do some positive things, most were negative and they left out Black people.
Great. Go ahead and build on that, Giovanni.
I agree because most of the problems that they were aimed at, they really didn't get fixed, but they just put some light on the situation.
Interesting. I really like this idea that Giovanni just stated. Can you revoice it for me, Shaquasia? I don't know if she's back yet. Shaquasia, are you there? Maybe we're having some tech issues. Shaquasia, if you can chat me. What is this? Giovanni, can you restate that argument you just said?
I said they weren't really successful because most of the problems that they were trying to fix, it never really got fixed, but it did put some light on the situation.
Interesting. What are some key terms that you would use if you were arguing that the progressives were not successful? Go ahead and share those in the chat. What are some key terms or key people you would bring up? Awesome. Thank you, Shakeem, for starting us off. Awesome. I'm seeing some names. Yes. Told you guys, I don't like Woodrow Wilson at all. He's like he's the 1900s equivalent of Thomas Jefferson. I can't stand him. Awesome. Okay, so we are going to finish up there. See, the thing is, Wilson is not in a Tony Award winning musical that like puts some rose colored glasses on him. So I do like Wilson. I do dislike Wilson a little bit more, although it's really, really hard to it's really hard to decide. Jefferson, Jackson, and Wilson, can't stand them. Which is why you guys remember those three, hopefully. Okay, we're gonna go and transition to the exit ticket. Tomorrow will be a lecture on imperialism, so just make sure you are prepared with notebook, paper, pen and pencil like usual. And that is gonna be the plan for tomorrow. Great job today on the last major discourse of the week, and we'll go ahead and get started on the exit ticket. If you have any questions, feel free to chat me. Once you submit your completed exit ticket and the classwork, you are free to go.